Hi, I'm Brian Sullivan. As a longtime Google Earth outreacher, it's been inspiring to see this community continually grow and diversify every year at our Geo for Good Summit. While our teams have historically had deep roots in the academic, research, and NGO space, much of my work today is now focused on how we can bring Earth Engine into the commercial markets to help further our environmental, sustainable, and societal impacts. At Google, we've always looked for the largest levers, where filling a gap in information or decision making will have the largest impact. We see engaging with the private sector, its markets, and the financing behind them as one of the most critical levers we must engage with to bring about the changes we need for a sustainable future. For this track, we'll be looking at sustainable supply chains from multiple perspectives. First, we'll have a panel including multinational corporations, an NGO, a UN agency, and for a perspective on a new partnership and project that was announced at COP26. Then we'll dive into the research and science that has laid the foundation for so many of the new initiatives that we're seeing coming into this space. And finally, we'll look at some emerging commercial solutions that are helping companies understand, measure, and manage their supply chains more sustainably. Until recently, supply chains were likely out of sight and out of mind for most of us. But that's no longer the case, as their global breakdowns, backlogs, and shortages are now front page headlines all the way, and we're feeling the squeeze from them, from our high-tech chips that are powering our electronics, all the way down to our perishable food at local grocery stores, as well as their impacts on pricing and inflation. We know that the various stages of supply chain have disproportionate impacts on local communities, both from their perspective on labor as well as on minorities. Now, in many of these cases, they don't have alternatives, and the environmental impact and to their surrounding areas from resource extraction, processing, and manufacturing are real. But these are also the things that often help raise these communities out of poverty, bring economic opportunities and livelihoods and investment in the region. By their very nature, supply chains are ecosystems unto themselves. They're filled with a range of parasitic as well as symbiotic relationships, interconnected at their core. They're so rarely a matter of right or wrong, good or bad, but live in an infinite shade of gray where nuance and context really matter. All of us here are going to acknowledge that we must drastically reduce our dependency on fossil fuels for transportation, and we believe electric vehicles are part of that solution. But gathering those minerals required for batteries and their life cycle management have real environmental issues to be managed as well. We know that land change drives close to 25% of global emissions, with commodity agriculture being a large contributor and palm oil likely the most contentious. I clearly remember a vivid Greenpeace campaign that shows an officer worker biting into a Kit Kat chocolate bar to find a bloody orangutan finger inside. Someone will likely post it in the questions right now. Now, there's lots of bad things about palm. It speaks to the critical habitat and the biodiversity that are in jeopardy from rampant deforestation and land conversion to these plantations. Conversions are often done by burning forests or peatlands, releasing carbon and creating air quality and health issues. They are linked to human rights abuses and indigenous land tenure appropriations. But banning all palm oil outright from the global supply chain is not a viable solution. There's a middle ground we must manage towards. Now, there's a lot of really good things about palm as well. It's the most efficient vegetable oil. Soy, for example, requires about 7 times the land for an equal volume of oil. It requires less energy, less fertilizers, less pesticides. About 40% of global palm comes from smallholder farmers and provides livelihood for 4.5 million people across Indonesia and Malaysia alone. And it's expected to be about a $25 billion market by 2025. In our session today, I promise it won't be all palm all the time. We'll also hear from other fields of agriculture that look not just at crops, but also the biodiversity, ecosystems, and life cycle analyses that are involved. Examples of measuring sustainable practices like no-till farmer and water, looking not just in agriculture, but also in high-tech semiconductor spaces. As you watch this sector, please remember to keep complexity and nuance and context in mind. And we look forward to building a future of collaborative, sustainable supply chains together. Thank you.